visitar este lugar histórico, que atrae la atención de tantos visitantes a recorrer los pasillos de este lugar. Desglosaremos las páginas de la historia para poder darnos cuenta con exactitud de los hechos vividos aquí. Nuestro recorrido comienza en el año 1718, cuando los misioneros españoles Francisco Olivares e Isidro Espinosa construyeron la misión de San Antonio de Valero, nombrada en honor del virrey de México, el Marqués de Valero, cerca del arroyo San Pedro, con el propósito de mantener el poder español en el área y enseñarles la religión cristiana a los indígenas. Esta iglesia hoy en día es conocida como el Álamo. En menos de 50 años, Texas, aunque todavía era una aldea, se había convertido en la capital de Texas española. Avanzamos las páginas de la historia y nos encontramos en el año 1790. Para ese entonces, la misión de San Antonio de Valero solamente tenía unos 48 indios viviendo en la misión. En 1793, los padres franciscanos que se encargaban de la misión San Antonio de Valero se trasladan y la misión se cierra. Para comienzos de 1800, la misión está totalmente deshabitada. Solamente quedaban los castillos de árboles de álamos como testigos de su historia. Entre los años 1801 y 1817, soldados de la caballería española del pueblo de Álamo, México, son enviados a Texas para proteger a los habitantes de la región de la Revolución Mexicana.
Okay, so hers was differentiation. Of course, she did it by product and process as well. She actually drew all of those pictures. And one of the things that is so exciting, did she get that on the first try? Because she sounds very, like she's not stumbling through any of her words or anything like that. And I said, no, it was not the first try. Photo Story allows you to delete the narration off of that one slide and go back and re-record it if you need to, because it allows you to preview it, which of course you want your students to do because they're going to need time to play around with the microphones. The first Photo Story that you saw, that was her first take, because we just, hurry, let's go, finish it, let's go! And that was what her end up product was. And so that's why her audio was going in and out, because she didn't have time to really sit and play with the microphone to see, okay, if I hold it like this, that's too close, and then I'm going to start getting all of the microphone from everybody else. And so that's where she came from. But it's one of the really nice things about that. Voki is an online, it allows students to create free avatars. And an avatar is basically just an online image. And it's free. They don't have to sign up for it, which is really awesome, because whenever I go to a site and I try to get kids to do something and then they have to sign up for an account, I'm like, well, great, it's free, but I can't get them to sign up for the account. Voki, you don't have to. You can click create your online avatar, and it'll actually have a URL that you can go back to that you can just put in anywhere. So this is an example of how it was used in a world languages online class. And I can also show you some student ones that were used for letters to the incoming 4th grade class. What the 4th grade teacher did was, instead of having them do a traditional letter, she had them do all their pre-writing, all of their writing, but then she gave them the option of creating their own character, and they recorded their voices. So they were speaking to the 4th graders instead of the incoming class having to read the letter and actually go through it. But this is a world language class, an online class. Okay, so we just saw some of those examples, some very basic examples of that. So when it comes to classroom management for differentiating instruction, I know you probably have your own kind of adaptations of way of doing that. But I wanted to give you kind of a refresher on some elements to consider. So of course in this one we're going to talk about looking at strategies for differentiating instruction and adapting lessons. This is also where we are going to explore the Texas TPSP, the Texas Performance Standards Project, so that you can look at some of the lessons that they're actually wanting to be done with gifted and students who are identified as gifted and talented. So some of the elements, let's look at some of those. Hey, what happened? Okay, let's look at steps. I'll have to figure out why that didn't. Of course, you have to get to know your students. So one of the first things that we normally do just at the beginning of the year is some kind of inventory, just to figure out not just their academic level where they are, but also what kind of learning style they learn best from. And that's not, one of the things that I always like to re-emphasize is when Howard Gardner's talking about, it's not teaching one thing 8 different ways. It's that one lesson hitting different learning styles. And so when I walk into a class, I love it when I see a teacher, okay, I got this going, okay, you're doing that, okay, yeah, you guys are doing that, okay, yeah. And she's all over the place. But it's not, and it looks kind of like chaos, but it isn't. Like she knows exactly, she knows exactly what they're doing at that moment. And so you could administer a learning style, and this is where I gave a link to a learning style inventory. Identifying areas of your curriculum that you think could be adapted. So if you have already a curriculum guide, like what most districts have, or some kind of scope and sequence, or if you're in a district that has C-scope, there's areas in there that you could actually take that and say, okay, you know what, I don't want the students to turn it in just that one way. I want to give them the option of doing a PowerPoint, even though it might take them a while, and maybe we might not be able to play it on the on the school one, but you will at least have that option of giving it to the students. So it just gives you, kind of lists out what you could do. The instructional goals, like for our district, it's the I can statements. What are those I can statements that they're supposed to be hitting? So any kind of goals or objectives. And then just looking at what role you play in your own classroom. Because I know we all walk into our classrooms and we have this overall general thing of what's supposed to be happening. But even when you walk into your own individual classroom, you could say, okay, not that you're going to break the rules, but you want to teach the way you know that your students can, and you have justification from the learning style, and taking some kind of inventory of where you know that they go. And then, of course, there's just a brief little reference there. Some of the strategies that you can use. Hopefully this will come up. Looking at those 3 areas, I tried to give you multiple strategies, going back to my needs of covering everything, would be based on content. So you could look at pretest to assess where individual students are, encouraging the thinking at various levels of blooms, breaking down assignments into smaller, more manageable parts for students, which I'm certain that that's probably what we all do already, choosing broad instructional concepts, or even allowing students to take those and present it on their own. And then based on process, using a variety of materials that target different ones, that target different learning styles, different reading abilities. Developing activities that target auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and kinesthetic learners, keeping in mind that there are other multiple intelligences. Establishing stations is usually a really great idea. I love to see stations all the way up through high school. I walked into a couple high school classes where they still have stations, and it's always great because kids are always moving around. And I walked into one public, it was courses of public education, can't remember which high school it was, where I actually thought they were in transition. Like I was waiting for the bell or something, and they weren't. One of the students explained, no, this is our station day. See, and he gave me this, he showed me the schedule. This is what our teacher gives to us every month. And we get to, as long as we hit every station and go to visit every station, it doesn't matter what station we go to first. We just have to go to each one. So they were in charge of their own station management, which was really awesome.
Well, one of the things I think you keep in mind, one of the things you can do to simplify